Hail Internets! It's Paul, it's Matt, Dork Lords. We are here talking about Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 3, Point of Light. Alright, there are three main plot lines that occur throughout this episode.
Yes.
And maybe we'll just talk about them in that way. Like we'll talk about plot point 1, plot point 2, plot point 3.
Sure. Yeah, they don't really cross that much.
Correct. So the three are you've got a Michael and Amanda, her mom, adopted mom,
and Pike
are investigating further Spock's absence.
Yes.
He continues to be absent. All right, so that's one thing. Second thing, Tilly, in the middle of her officer training school, is still being visited by the apparition that is her former classmate May, that we saw from the last episode. And she's freaking out about it and has to deal with that. So that's two. And the third plot line is we get reintroduced to the Klingons, and we see what's happened post the end of the war, and specifically how L'Rell, who is the new chancellor, how she's dealing with that, all the political intrigue with that, and she's got her love interest Ash Tyler / Vok, and who is also called her torchbearer. Kind of her prime minister. Not prime minister is the wrong word.
Secretary of War.
Secretary of War. Hand of the King. Whatever.
Chief of Staff.
Yeah. And so those three plot lines are kind of moving throughout this episode. I'll say right off, this was not my favorite. This is probably my least favorite of the 3 episodes we've seen so far of season 2.
I've heard that. I've watched other. I've listened to this other podcast. Called, what do they call it? Anyway, I'll remember it. But they weren't crazy about the episode, but because it's kind of like a furniture moving episode, because
in what way?
They're setting up things to come. It's like it's sort of in between. Like one of the things that we saw in this was the event of the previous episode where they're continuing on, but it's still not actually
correct. It isn't.
It's still not culminating.
It's the issue, obviously in the past, and nothing has to be the same as it always was.
It doesn't have to.
But back in the day,
very
much each episode of Trek was typically a self-contained episode. Hey, we have a problem in the first 5 minutes. We resolve it in the last 5 minutes, and stuff happens in between.
And I'm about to do that. My reaction to that is something that I'm going to do voluntarily.
All right, very good. Right, so it is a certainly a reasonable, if not a good idea to try to create more season-long narrative arcs, so your audience gets more invested in these characters, and they change, and one episode makes them change to another.
And I'm going to take my hand. I really liked a number of shows that really began to change that. For me, the first one that made that impression was Hill Street Blues.
Okay.
And that's why Deep Space Nine is my favorite of the series. And for some Star Trek fans, it's not. Which is why sometimes I call myself a Deep Space Nine fan, as opposed to a Star Trek fan. But it was doing it before it became really popular, and now most really
well-respected shows
do that.
Westworld, does that.
Game of Thrones,
Counterparts.
Sopranos.
A lot of shows we talk about.
Yep.
Leftovers.
Yep.
Maniac. All right, anyway, so so it's become more common, but there is a pitfall a little bit in it, and we're seeing a little bit of that, in that you've got kind of these B-plot storylines that in the past, a B-plot storyline would get kind of wrapped up, and then you move on to the next one.
Yeah.
But in this case, for instance, the Tilly storyline feels like something that could have been wrapped up in an episode, where you've got, my God, I'm starting to get...
You don't know.
That's true, we don't know the ending beat of it
you
yet.
don't know.
And we do see that in the trailer for next week, it's still a thing.
Yeah.
So maybe there's more, yes. certainly there's more to it. We just don't know what that is. Yeah. But it feels like that's the kind of in the past, it would have been the typical B plot.
For all we know right now, they get us stuck in that last episode.
Like back in the this will date me a bit too. You mentioned Hill Street Blues. Fantasy Island.
Oh,
Did you watch that show?
Yes.
Right. So Fantasy Island. It was definitely Bach.
Yes.
Start.
Very
everything's
close.
finished by the end.
And also too, another example of the first episode having a lot more portent in terms of what's the deal with him? Who is I almost said Ricardo Montalban is his name, but
right.
Mr. Rourke.
Mr. Rourke.
Is he really bad? Is he really good? What's the deal? Who cares?
But they always had 3 plot lines. Yeah. So every episode had 3 stories.
Yeah.
And so it would be the scary one, and then the kind of serious one, maybe a little detective-y one, and then the comic relief one. Yeah. And then you would just kind of bounce back and forth. And inevitably there was one of the storylines where you'd be like, oh, we're back to that one. Yeah. Okay. Man, we'll just sit this out. Oh, and we're back to the cool one I like. And so you get a little bit of that anyway. So with this, I'm not a big Tilly fan. I've said it before.
You said it many times.
And this was a Tilly Klingons episode, which
yes.
The Klingons from season 1 I was not a big fan of. So this had a lot of things I didn't particularly care for. However, you brought up a great point about Tilly in this episode, which definitely is a difference. It's not even that slight. It's a pretty distinct difference in her character from what we've seen the intention of her in the previous 15 episodes or whatever.
Yeah. It's probably not going to be like from now on it's like this, but in this particular episode.
So up until now, especially in episodes 1 and 2, she is comic relief. I mean, she throws in little lines and everybody laughs, and then we're back to the series. So here, she had lines that, if you'd have directed it differently, could have been comic relief lines. She's sitting in the captain's chair and she's like, "Shut up! You're a liar!" And she's talking to the ghost, but it looks like she's talking to Pike, and she gets in trouble. Could have been like a ha-ha, but she plays it and it's directed as, I'm worried that I'm losing my mind and I'm losing my career, and everything I've worked for is going down the tubes. And it's actually a pretty serious moment. Like it's dealt with, and it's not like a ha ha ha. And so I actually do appreciate that, because I feel like that's more grounded in what the rest of the show is, instead of just one character who suddenly stands out as like, waka waka! Ah! It's like Fozzie Bear's on the show. You're like, okay.
What have you got against Fozzie Bear?
I love Fozzie Bear, but because Fozzie Bear was in a show with a bunch of other jokesters, you take Fozzie Bear and you put him in Hill Street Blues, it gets weird. All right. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I just came up with the best show of all time.
I don't know. Fozzie Bear.
Fozzie Blues.
Fozzie Blues. Waka waka, dirtball.
Hill Street Bear. So anyway, yes. So in that way, even though I was more disappointed with I don't understand the science behind the spore. That was my problem with this. But actually, Tilly's reaction to, I think I'm going crazy, I was cool with. Okay. I appreciated the gravitas with which they handled it. So yay for that.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'd mentioned to you before that I think the show, when it tries to do humor, is not that great. I wish they'd really bring in some writers who had a better sense of that, actually.
Cut to alien sneezing in an elevator.
Yeah, and really hackneyed sort of jokes like, "Hey, I'm not gonna, don't make me laugh. Oh, I'm a Vulcan. Oh, we don't. I'm known for the don't do funny." So I wish they'd work on that. Although,
or not. Maybe not work on that and just stick with the serious.
Well, see, this is like I was telling you. You could wish a show doesn't try something, or you can hope that they do it better.
All right, good point. All right, so be it. So we're going to hope that they do it better.
That's how we're positive.
Positive. Since we're talking the Tilly thing, so what she's not going crazy, it's the spore that fell on her costume, her outfit from season 1, infected her, we'll say. I don't know. or got into her bloodstream. I don't know exactly what it did to her.
Yeah,
but it hung around.
They had to suck it out of her body, so
so it
probably got into her bloodstream.
But it didn't do anything for the longest time until this dark matter came aboard, and then it excited the Mycelial Network.
We assume we don't
part
know.
of her, or whatever.
We don't know.
And manifested as her childhood friend. I guess where I came out was I was. I'm not even sure what I don't like about this, but it's like the fact that the Spore. I think of it as like the Spore isn't a hyper intelligent thing. It's not like a sentient creature that walks around. Maybe it is. Maybe that's. But I think of a Spore as like a virus or something that you might get in your body, and it has certain defense mechanisms or certain ways of attacking you. And its way of attacking is like search memories, found memory of loved one, or something. I will mimic that to try to get this host to do what I want. But the fact that it found a memory of her friend from school, from way back when they were kids, took that, then aged the girl to a woman, and so that it was actually unrecognizable to Tilly herself, and then tried to have that person co-opt and manipulate Tilly seems weird and almost at odds with its stated goal. It's like I seek to propagate myself or whatever. I'll make a thing, but you know what I'll do? I'll age it up so that she won't recognize it. I'll hope she can go to a database and figure out, that you're right, you're the thing. And I'll hope that the person died young, so then she'll think it's a ghost. And there's a lot going on here that this Spore, who I assume doesn't have a brain, figured out. That's all. That's kind of where I was coming from.
Right, but as I pointed out, you're making a lot of assumptions there.
I'm making a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know yet exactly how or why, and we might not ultimately know why they decided to show up the way she did. But I think you can make other assumptions of why, not necessarily that you depend on the character to be dead.
Yeah.
And you could be doing it for other reasons.
And that your point off air was that maybe it's more of a generalized thing. It was just trying to be generally someone that the host would respect or would communicate with, and who cares about the
personality,
identity, really. Right?
And okay, I know that you like this kind of face, so I will choose this kind of face.
Right.
And
you like somebody from Starfleet,
somebody your age, okay? Because initially, when you met the child, it was you were that age too. So fine, I will be that age too. And now I've grown up, and they use a nickname that of your name instead of your actual name.
That's how she accessed the memory banks. Like, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Who gave you a nickname?
Yeah.
Oh, good. This one, Stilly. Got it. All right, do that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a very complicated Spore. I'll just say that.
And also, too, I think it's important because it appears to have a goal. It's stated that it has a goal.
Certainly has a goal.
So
we don't know what that
we
goal
don't know
is.
what the goal is yet. Yeah. So
it maybe wants to travel somewhere. Oh, that said, the Spore, as May, we'll call it May, multiple times was getting upset when she got on the bridge.
Yes.
She wanted to get on the bridge.
Yes.
Then she realizes, the captain's wrong. It's not Pike that I want. It's the blonde-haired one. She wanted Stamets.
Right.
So then when Stamets shows up in the lab, she's like, oh, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
He was captain. So I think, I hate to throw time travel in it again, but I think Mycelial Network, it seems to act independent of time. I'll bet you what this thing needs is some event where Stamets is the captain of the ship or is captaining the ship temporarily. And like that moment in time, whenever that happens, is somehow important to this thing either being released or returning to its colony, or I don't know, whatever.
I don't believe that's true. Although it's possible.
Why did she think Stamets was the captain, I guess?
Because when he's in the thing, she sees that as you're flying the ship.
I see. Okay. All right.
That's why.
I like
and
that.
It also might be, too, related to why she wants his help. In that he's the one who's responsible for moving the ship around, so maybe she wants that. But another thing that was pointed out that I'm questioning, I'm not sure if it's true, but it's possible that when all that happened and that they were over in the alternate universe. So that may be what she's trying to do. Maybe she's from the other universe.
We could figure
and
that
she
out.
wants to
I
get
feel like
back.
they'd come back and it was over, and then the particles settled.
But it could have been the process of we were there and now we're back.
Sure. So they're going to go back to the mirror universe, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Ah.
So that could be something. Now, what I've said to you is that I'm hoping, because I do want this to be finished. I don't want them to have the Spore network to use whenever they want.
Right.
to.
You keep thinking
I
that
don't
this
want
is
it.
going to lead to a we'll never use the Spore network
Yep,
again.
Yep. Yeah. So in my head, it's like, oh wow! Not only is it bad for whoever is using it, but it's also these little creatures are moving around and
Right.
they don't like us using it.
Right. You're
So-
bothering sentient beings.
Yeah. So that's not against So,
I give that a possibility, but I don't think that's a probability.
No,
don't-
I agree.
Okay. Yeah.
But in some way, though, I do want it to be. I mean, I just want it to end.
'Cause we have-
I didn't want it to be done because it's like, come on, you don't have to. You don't have to have it.
we have two things now where I hope the Band-Aid isn't simply, for the case of the Spore drive, I hope it's not, you get to the end of whatever, the series, and they say, all right, we've used the Spore drive successfully for the last 3 years. Let's just promise never to use it again.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't do that. The same thing with Spock, where we'll talk about his problems, but they're bland. He's a murderer, at least wanted for murder now. He's gone into a mental institution. He's got this back history with his sister, and none of it's mentioned ever again. And so I don't want them to get to the end of this and then they say, all right, now that we've successfully gotten back together, let's never talk about this again. Like, no, give us some. Like, the more of these things you've got where you have to give a compelling reason never to bring this up again, I worry that we're going to have some unsatisfying conclusions to these things. Or they'll just be like, that's fine. Maybe they did use it.
Yeah.
Maybe they just called Spore drives warp. So
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
So that's that.
That's kind of the Tilly,
Yes.
more or less the Tilly
Yes,
thing. Yeah.
it is.
And
Well, I want to say this about that. One thing they didn't mention, and I thought they would once they brought Stamets into it, is that Stamets has been thinking he's seen his husband.
right.
Who's
Oh,
dead.
good point. I wanted to bring this up and I'd forgotten. Is the image that Stamets sees of his husband when he's in the Mycelial Network, is that actually the spirit of his husband?
Yeah.
It sounds like it's not.
I
think it's the spores are doing the same thing to him that they were doing to Tilly. Where they're like, imagine being that he would respect.
Yeah.
Oh, look,
Yeah.
we'll do this.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm your
Yeah.
dead husband.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's not is kind of a big deal, really, because he thinks it is. He's certainly convinced. Stamets, I think, is like,
Yes.
when I go there, I see my dead husband, and I don't like that, but
Yes.
I also want to be with him.
Right. But he didn't have the boom where it's like, oh, it's happening to you. No, he's just like, oh, this is boom, there, you're done.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, as
Take
opposed to
2
like,
pills,
oh,
call me
wait, now
tomorrow.
hold on a second. Maybe I should suck something out of me.
Yeah, good point. We see in the trailer for the next episode that the thing is like absorbing over
Yeah.
Tilly's face again or whatever.
Yeah.
The blob.
And
It's the
again-
blob. They have the blob on
Yes,
board.
yes, yeah, and it won't be her death.
Damn it.
She'll survive.
She looked like she was dead. She looked like she'd quit. She looked like she's dying again. Tilly keeps coming back. She's
a cat.
She is a cat. She is a cat.
There
are 13 episodes though, so episode 10, get ready. All right. Okay, so that's the Tilly side of things. Let's talk about the Spock side of things. So Amanda and Sarek show up in a ship. There was a weird, almost like a little faux tension built up around it. With like, it's an unidentified ship. They're not communicating.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to fire if you don't tell us your thing. Like, why? Why do we care? What's the?
Those pesky Vulcans.
Yeah. They would risk just getting blown out of the sky by just like not pushing the hello button. Anyway, Amanda comes on board, talks to Michael. Look. I have to be quiet about this because I stole my son's medical file. I need you to de-encrypt it.
I wish they'd expressed that too differently, because it's like someone stole a file. a copy of a file?
Yeah. That's true. Later on, we see like someone stole the solo files from the medical. Like, you mean somebody just took like a USB and was it the file they talked off with? In this day and age, you still have like paper. They walked off with a box.
Yeah.
I have a banker's box filled with Spock's documents. Right. Point being, we know from the last episode that Spock had voluntarily committed himself to a mental institution. Now we learn, after a few little conversations happen, that he has in fact killed a couple, maybe 2 or 3. I forgot if it was 2 or 3.
Me too.
We'll say 3. He killed some folks. 3 is too many. 2 is fine. He killed some of the orderlies or the nurses or whatever, and fled. And he's on the run. He's on the lam.
Yes.
You got people looking for him.
Yes.
Obviously, the mom and Michael and Captain Pike are like, that doesn't sound like Spock.
No. Except after they find out. What did they find out? They found out something. They were like, I don't know, maybe he would do it.
Yeah, they hear the nurse's notes or whatever, and they're like, oh, these people thought that he was like a psychopath.
Yeah.
From basically I don't know if I said it out loud, but the implication is because he was half human and he grew up in a Vulcan environment where he couldn't express emotions, now he's a psycho.
Yeah, see.
And the mom blames herself
so easily.
That.
Yeah, she does.
But it does. It brings up to me.
He's a maniac.
So we had this. We had the situation where we're supposed to. We keep getting. If you do this one thing, you'll see Spock.
Yes.
And then they do the thing, and then Spock's not there. And so now it's been 3 episodes where we haven't seen Spock. It doesn't look like he's in the trailer. He's not in the trailer for sure for episode 4. Again, maybe he shows up at the end of the episode, but it seems more like now that the mom is going to find him, it seems more like that's a mid-season thing maybe. But it kind of reminded me of certain video games that I played where you get a quest and it's the annoying quest where you're like, look, all right, to complete your quest, just go talk to Captain Jenkins. And so you can find him in the tavern. And you go to the tavern to talk to Captain Jenkins, finish off your quest, level up. Captain Jenkins isn't there. You're like, what? And then somebody tells you, oh, Captain Jenkins, well, he left yesterday for Newtown. Go visit him in Newtown. Oh, okay. I guess I'll go to the town to visit Captain Jenkins. Then you travel. You get to the town. Oh, Captain Jenkins? Oh, he went on patrol. You have to catch him out in the woods. You go out. Oh, the whole patrol died, but Captain Jenkins was taken prisoner. Now he's in a castle. You got to go to the castle, but don't go before 3 a.m. because he's never there until after. Whatever. And it's like after there's a certain threshold that you pass in which you're like, all right, now the game's just dicking me around, basically. And
yeah, but
like,
only at that 4th time.
It's the 4th time. And so that's kind of what we're getting so far, and maybe we'll resolve it quickly. But we had the initial. Oh, we're at the Enterprise. Oh, you know who's on that ship?
Yep.
Spock.
Yep.
He's probably going to beam over with the captain and talk to me. Oh, this is going to be a big moment.
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, Spock didn't come over. Best not to have high expectations. And I think you know why. You're like, oh, I got it, because he doesn't like me. He didn't come over. Okay, let's go on this mission together. They go on a mission, solve the mission, come back. All right, now that we're back and the mission's resolved, I guess we'll have that moment with Spock. Oh, no, didn't I tell you? He was never on the ship. No. Whoa, yeah. He left weeks ago. He's in a mental institution he checked himself into. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we'll just have to go to the mental institution. And no, wait! He's not there anymore. He broke out. Now you got to find him. It's like, okay. Can I just give up? Can I call him? Is there a way to anyway? So they're hiding the ball.
Lam.
He's on the lam. Also, it is interesting. I mean, I assume that he killed a bunch of people and escaped is a setup. They're framing him in some way, I think, because he did voluntarily check himself in. So it's like, what? Couldn't he just voluntarily check himself out?
Well, I think
unless he went nuts and killed people because he's nuts.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
no. I feel like if you were to voluntarily commit yourself and you were like acting crazy and hurting people, they wouldn't be like, well, why don't you leave?
I got you.
That's when they commit you.
I see. They were committed to committing him.
Yeah, it's like,
okay.
we would generally commit you if you were a danger to yourself or others. Oh, I'm not. I just want to go here for some help.
And then,
okay.
Blue, 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 blue. All right, fine. So, Mr. Spock, you can leave anytime.
Yeah.
Here's your gun.
Yeah.
All right, I got you.
Some extra bullets.
All right, good point.
You might want
Good
to
point.
shoot me with.
Good point. Good point. Although, again, because of what we know in the future, I'm going to guess that this doesn't end up with him being a murderer who escaped from a mental institution.
Yes, I would assume so as well. Even though I think it's one among the things we've seen was like...
It's true. We saw the footage of him like beating a bunch of people, kicking them, and like is that later or is that footage of the actual event?
Yeah. I wonder.
Because it does look like an institutional thing.
Yeah.
People in white outfits getting their asses kicked.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, so we do learn some other information, which is the mom, Amanda, mentions, oh yeah, you know that time when you ran away because of the logic extremists, which still sounds weird to me, but whatever.
Well, it's
racist.
funny actually.
Just call them racist.
When I first watched it, I thought they meant logic extremists. Ooh, I am the logic extremist. Ooh. Or I didn't know if it was like some disease, like
I think they're extremists who are logically extreme.
Yes, logic extremists.
Plural. I am hyper reasonable.
Yes, but yeah, I thought
A squared plus B squared.
Logic extremists, is that some sort of disease? I've got logic extremists.
I mean, they're basically Vulcan pure-bloodish people, basically.
Yes. The bastards.
They tried to give themselves a name that sounded cooler, I guess.
Yeah.
So there was an attack. We'd seen that in season 1. There was remnants, flashback of that moment when she ran away. Spock found her, and told the parents, "You'll find her here." And what we learn is he was told by the Red Angel.
Yes.
And he has a drawing of it. He was drawing this angelic figure, and the Red Angel told him where to find Michael Burnham. She then confides to her mom, "Yeah, well, I've seen it too, so he wasn't totally nuts."
Not totally
nuts.
Yeah.
Because they'd always just pass it off as, "Oh, well, his logic figured it out," and then we just were like, "Okay, you can stop talking about the angel thing now." And also, then the mom's like, "Well, right after he saw that angel, he really withdrew and got weird, and so we think the angel is what screwed him up." And this is where Michael's like, "Well, no, actually, this is I screwed him up because I was worried that the extremists would hurt him if he was close to me, so I did something horrible." And he's never forgiven me for it, and I'm not going to say what it is right now.
No.
But it was horrible.
Waiting for sweeps.
I was waiting for the mom. The mom is pretty patient with it, frankly.
Yeah.
Because she's like, "Oh, so you did something horrible." What? I'm like, and?
She's like,
"Yeah, we're fine."
Spent so much time with Vulcans that, that's okay.
I don't need to know.
I don't need to know.
She brought up the fact that Sarek wanted Spock to be raised as a Vulcan, so don't show him any affection. So she didn't. Instead, she showed Michael affection, and she's worried that that's what screwed up Spock.
Made him into a psycho killer.
Michael did something. What do we think Michael did? Did she say something? Did she do something? Is it going to be something where when we find out, it'll be like, "Oh," or will it be like, "What?"
Yeah.
I asked him the age-old question, "Why?" It seems like they always say they broke computers back in the day.
Is your
in the
favorite
60s,
color?
Right. In the 60s, any sci-fi show, you'd have the computer, it's infallible. Why? So I don't know. Maybe that's what she did to Spock.
Maybe she did,
him up. But so I don't know. I don't know what that thing would be, especially because they were kids-ish. It sounds like they weren't like 20.
Right.
They were like 10-ish or something. I don't know how old exactly. Teenagers maybe.
Right.
But just the idea of siblings say mean things to each other.
They do.
When they're kids. They do. My sister and I said some mean things to each other over the years. And we got over it.
Yeah.
So what is it that you would say that not only in the moment would be bad, but then would then linger for decades?
Yeah.
And that's what I don't see at this moment. But
Yeah.
not saying they can't do it.
No.
But
Sure.
like if she was like, "Mom loves me better," okay, that hurtful, but not decades hurtful. So
Maybe she called pointy ears.
That's
good
true.
for-
Pointy-eared half-breed.
Yeah, there you
Although that's
go.
what Kirk
See.
called him, and he was fine with it later. Of course, that's later. Now he's an adult.
Later,
He's like,
yeah.
"Oh yeah, no, my sister called me that. Oh, did I say my sister? Oh, I never talked about her. I'm sorry. Can we wipe that? Can we wipe that?
Forget.
The whole audience. So Red Angel. Obviously, it was showing up to Spock, helping him back in the day.
Yeah.
Like very young.
Yes.
And it's shown up again to Spock before these red dots came out. So it's obviously connected in some way to Spock. Here's what I hope. I have two thoughts. One is something I hope it's not. And the other one is kind of an acceptable. Although I don't know that I'm like, yay, but I'm like, okay. So the thing I hope it's not is like somehow in the future, like Mike, a different version of an older version of Michael or an older version of Spock, or like sending messages through the past to somehow mend their relationship by this intergalactic signals. Like that would be like the fact that the entire thing is just a hey, now we can get back together.
Yeah.
Wow, great. Meanwhile the Klingons are like, wait, a sign! We must go to war. I mean, like it affects the entire galaxy,
yes.
and yet it's just about two people.
Yeah,
that would suck.
That would suck.
So my other thought is perhaps that this Red Angel appearing is something like the equivalent of what we saw last week. So there was the Discovery shows up in a planet with a bunch of folks that are just hanging out in a stone church, like Amish. It's like, Discovery Amish. Well, imagine if there is a society that is as far advanced above the Discovery as the Discovery is above the Amish people hanging out there, which we've seen before. I mean, Star Trek has done plenty of societies like that.
Like that, And
there was I can't think of the name of the race, but back in the original series, there was an episode.
Look at me.
You can tell us in the comments, I'm sure. An episode where Kirk goes to a planet to help free people from the Klingons. In fact, Klingons are like taking over this city, and the people seem so peaceful and sheep-like.
Yeah.
And Kirk's like, "Why don't you fight? I'm gonna fight!" And he blows up like a depot, and then the Klingons and the Federation are fighting. And meanwhile, the townspeople are like, "What are you doing?" And then we find out at the end they're like actually not even physical forms. They're just like beings of light. They weren't angels, but they're like, "We're so far evolved, we don't have needs for war and all this stuff." And they were like way advanced beings. Maybe.
Well,
so my point being,
maybe that's the being of light.
Maybe that's what the being of light is. Whatever those guys were.
Point of light.
Point of light. Good point. Of light. So my thought is that perhaps this higher, class of being has their own version of a prime directive. We can't just help out. So our version of the prime directive is we'll try to help you in ways that don't seem, hey, look, it's a religious symbol. Oh, he had an epiphany and he helped people.
Sucker.
Religion. We can use it to manipulate them.
Let's break them.
So that's what the fact is, that somehow Spock is necessary in some chain of events to keep the Federation on the ability to ascend in some future generation.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe that's the thing.
That's not that bad.
So that's basically the Spock side of things.
Yeah,
all right, so that leaves us with the third storyline, the Klingon one. You're like, oh yeah.
I forgot.
All right, so this is very complicated actually. I would say maybe most of the story is this part of the story. L'Rell if you remember last time we saw L'Rell, she was threatening to blow up Kronos unless they made her leader.
Yeah.
And that worked. I don't know that. I could see that working in the moment. And then, like, the next day after they had the bomb out of her hands, they're like, all right, and you're done.
L'Rell knows very smart because after that she banned bombs.
Is that what happened?
No one else could do it after that.
All right, very good. So she's a leader, but there's political intrigue. Got the Game of Thrones-ish going on with the different houses. Are like we don't want to unify. We want to be our own houses. Screw you. Plus, you've got a human who speaks for you.
Yes.
Which that's a big deal. The Klingons are, as we saw, they're racists.
Yes, they are.
And she's trying to strike a different chord by having her torchbearer, whatever, Secretary of War.
Sure, whatever.
But it's politically dangerous.
Yes.
Ash Vok doesn't help matters by reaching out to Burnham while she's aboard a starship to, talk to her like, hey, look, L'Rell's in trouble. If she falls, the alliance is broken, and we need help. Just letting you know. That communique is seen by the Klingons who have been spying on him with radio receiver paint. Damn, technology has gone way up on the show. Anyway, but they've got it, and they see, oh look, Ash, he's a traitor, and he looks human, and we don't believe he's actually Vulcan at all, or Klingon at all. We see then that L'Rell also had a kid with Vok before Vok was taken to the Discovery. Basically, she got pregnant.
Before he was.
Then she had the kid out, not in utero.
Yep.
Again, technology. Well done. And so then she's like sworn off seeing the kid because the kid's a liability. So again, this echoes, and I'll get to something I don't like about this, but this echoes a little bit of the. I'm going to abandon this thing I love for its own good.
Oh, yeah.
But it's much like Burnham kind of abandons Spock for his own good. But, okay, so we get the political intrigue. There's an attempted overthrow. There's a big fight scene. It looks like, they've been caught by the rival clan who's going to take over power. Like, has her sign an iPad, and you sign over your rights with, there you go. Looks bad, but when all seems bleakest, they're about to be killed off in front of each other. It's the Empress, Michelle Yeoh, as Mira Giorgio, shows up, kills everyone, gets a plan in motion, saves the day. She is part of this Section 31. We knew that was coming, but they introduced that. So the idea is this guy, Ash Tyler's a liability, so we have to pretend to kill him.
Yes.
We're going to say that he threatened you or killed the baby. I don't know what. Ash
he betrayed them.
Yeah.
Right? And so once they found that out, they killed him. I think that's all it comes down to.
But he killed the rival. Because the rival's dead too. Right? The Klingon with the white hair. They have hair now, by the way, but whatever. Okay. Because the rival guy's dead. So I think she said,
I think he discovered that he was a traitor, and he killed him. So I think it's like, you look at that. You talked to the Federation about our plans, and then he discovered you did it, and then you killed him, and then we killed you. I think that's the sequence of events.
Here's the severed head of my baby.
Yes. And yeah.
Anyway, I'm not sure who killed the baby. That was my point. Was it? Did she think Tyler killed the baby?
Stuff up.
Maybe
so.
So in reality, obviously, that's not what happened. Tyler goes off with the Section 31 ship. They show a decapitated baby head. No, okay, but they actually did, but it was a fake. Okay, so the baby goes to a Klingon monastery to be raised ignorant of his past. He will grow up to be King Arthur and pull a batleth from the stone. Okay. So basically, Tyler's going to join Section 31. That's the thing. And it did feel like a spin-off show. I know they've been talking about doing a spin-off.
Yeah,
of
it
this,
is. It's a backdoor pilot.
But it felt like the pilot thing of like,
Yeah.
here we are aboard our cool ship.
Yeah, with our cool cast members who are going to be on the
check
show.
it out. We don't even know these guys yet. But check out this guy who's a captain.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think Tyler's part of the crew.
Yeah.
Here's your black thing. Ah, look at that. All right. So the Empress is now, doing subterfuge for
spy stuff
for Starfleet.
Yep.
But I did want to get back to this notion real fast. It's a trope that it's not uncommon to Discovery. It happens in TV and movies a lot.
Yep. I
just personally, I kind of side-eye it every time I see it.
Oh.
And a good version of this is also with Tyrion in Game of Thrones.
Huh.
There's one of the seasons where Tyrion, he's in love with a prostitute, and he wants her to leave the city for her own good, but she won't leave because she loves him too, and they're together. And so his solution is, I'll be a dick to her, and I'll make her hate me, then she'll leave, and that'll be great, because then she'll be safe. And it doesn't work out, of course.
No, it doesn't work out, no.
But it's the same thing here where Michael Burnham's like, oh, there's a problem. If Spock's near me, he could be in trouble with these people trying to kill me. I know. I'll be a dick to him. Then he'll hate me for the rest of his life. And that's the way I'll solve the problem. And it's just like, I don't think people in the real world do that. I don't think that is a solution to when you actually love someone. And now, sure, if you don't like them and you're like, I wish this person would just go away from me, I'll just be harsh to him and that'll get him. Okay, yes, that happens. But that's not what this is.
No.
These people express, Tyrion, and in this case, Michael Burnham, express that they love this person so much and they care about them and their well-being so much that they're going to hurt them so badly that they'll never talk to them again. Like, that is not something people do. It's just not. And so
if you're a person in the psychological field, perhaps you can let us know.
Sure, in the comments, if this is something that's come up in the real world, please enlighten us that that's a thing. Because I can't imagine. I mean, I feel like there's also other solutions you could come up with. Like, for instance, hey, wow, it's kind of dangerous around me. Maybe like for the next year or 6 months, maybe I'll go away to this camp. I don't know. We'll separate. Just know, hey, I always love you. But maybe it's better that we be apart for a little while just for each of our safety. That sounds reasonable. Like something you'd be like, all right, I get it. Sure. Okay. Not, I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to convince you that I'm such a dick. Like, it's not even just, like, you're not even saying, like, hey, I'm a dick and I hate you. Like, you have to be convincing, right? So you have to say it. You can't just say it. You have to really mean it. And anyway, it just doesn't happen. In my opinion, that doesn't happen. And yet it happens a lot in movies and TV shows. I'm not throwing Discovery under the bus for using it. No. It's a trope that I'm not particularly fond of. I'm like, seems lazy. Find another way. You really care about this person. Find another way to deal with the problem other than screw you. Anyway, all right. So there we go. Discovery, episode 3.
Yep.
When do you think out there that we'll see Spock? What is your thought?
Oh yeah.
We see in like the trailer for the season. There's a lot of different scenes involving him. So it's not like a cameo. It's not like he's going to show up and like, hey. Yeah. I mean, we see him beating up people and orderlies. And we see him on the ship with a small ship with Burnham. We see him, like, I think, on a planet. Anyway, there's a lot of shots of him. So he's got to be in multiple episodes. Yeah. Just when do we actually get to him? I'm going to guess it's a mid-season thing now.
Perhaps, and then they probably conclude it in the end of the season, just so it's not like the Star Trek Discovery, the episodes of Spock.
Right, and Pike. And you're like, oh, we'll just keep him around. Yeah. So anyway, there you go, everybody. Thanks so much. We will be back talking about Counterpart, a little Lord of the Rings. We got Discovery. We got all kinds of fun stuff. So come on back. Bye, everybody. Yeah.